This is going to piss you off. So now that that's out the way, we're going to have an honest conversation about what Bitcoin is and who it helps. And I want you to understand why truly I believe that the demand will only get stronger. But in order for you to understand that, you need to face this truth. And that is that rich people need Bitcoin more than poor people. Just feel it. Feel the rage rising. For most people that are watching this, feel the rage rising. Accept it, and let's have a conversation about it. So, firstly, even if I've pissed you off, especially if I've pissed you off, you absolutely need to do me a favor and subscribe to this channel, because clearly if I've pissed you off, then you care about Bitcoin. And unfortunately, the way social media algorithms work, they work on subscriptions. So the more subscriptions, the more interest the channel has. So I would really appreciate if you would subscribe. That would help me share the message of Bitcoin wider. Now, the point is that rich people need Bitcoin more than poor people, but poor people need Bitcoin adoption more than rich people. So let's talk about that and what that actually means. Well, when you look at the fiat system, right, who has actually been robbed? I like to think about it like that. Like, who has actually been robbed of real material value? We can argue that, yes, the fiat system steals people's future time from them, and yes, that may be true, but we also can't judge what that person would have done with that time. So I'm going to only look at the material aspect of it, because trying to say that if everyone just had complete time freedom and they knew what that they would know what they want to do, and that's just not true. We see that in everyday society. Most people just don't know what to do, and it's better that they have a structure that allows them to stay on point. So most people can't handle complete freedom and autonomy when it comes to their time, their wealth, and this, that, and the other, which is sad. But I think, by now you and I have a relationship of actually speaking the truth to each other. So we're going to have an honest conversation. So when I think about who's actually been robbed, and when I say rich people, let me clarify, I don't mean like Larry Fink. I don't mean BlackRock as an institution. I don't mean any of that. I mean people like my parents, maybe your parents, maybe you, where you have, done the right thing, 100% done the absolute right thing, and you have sacrificed your time, sacrificed your life, bought real estate, bought equity, saved, sacrificed your personal enjoyment for the future legacy of your children, and you're at a point now where when you value the S&P 500 in M2 and not in US dollars, so you value it in the amount of money that's been printed, we're nowhere near the 2000 tech boom high when it comes to value. That's how you assess value. How many of the dollars that have been printed do I control? And when they print more, do I control more? That's how you control. That's how you perceive value. Perceiving value in dollar terms is futile. So, and if you want to know that, go watch my other video called Want to Stay Poor. It's on my channel. I'll actually post a link for that video in the description so you can go watch it later. But those people are the ones who have had things robbed, actually stolen, material value stolen from them. My parents, my dad and his family came to the UK. They reset up their life, and he started working. He started adding value to the UK economy, doing the right thing as a young man. And then he started buying property in the United Kingdom, adding value again to the UK economy. And then obviously he married my mom, and they continued working together, at times sacrificing their own happiness, sacrificing the spending that they wanted to do, because the right thing to do would be to sacrifice and build that empire and legacy. And they're now sitting in a position where if you value their property portfolio against all the pounds that have been printed, 35 years of work amounts to their property prices being 85%. So the price of their portfolio overall value should be 85% higher to account for all of the pounds that have been printed over that time period. Unfortunately, you can't have property prices 85% higher because then society would lose its shit. So governments won't allow that. Governments can literally control the amount of the price of these properties because they have supply control, they have demand control. If they want to increase or reduce supply, issue more permits or less permits. And if they want to screw with demand, you have interest rates. So they have done the right thing, sacrificed 35 years to do that. And what do they end up with? A portfolio that is 80% less than what it should be, or more than 80% less than what it should be, but it should be valued 80% higher than it is in order to match the amount of pounds that have been printed. And they have been materially robbed. And that's not a unique story. Most people that have done the right thing that the government told them to do have been robbed. They need Bitcoin. They need Bitcoin because they need to protect the value that they worked for. They have a legacy. They actually have something material that they are working for, sacrificing for. They need Bitcoin. They don't need Bitcoin adoption as much because if they pile into a scarce asset, which is what they thought they were doing with real estate, and the value of that goes up because the 5,000 richest people in the world decide to all pile into that, Bitcoin will still survive, right, as a store of value asset. So they don't necessarily need adoption, but they need Bitcoin. They need Bitcoin more than someone who has not had a penny to their name or will never work to have having a penny to their name. Someone who is just floating around, not really focused on success, and by the way, my channel and my content is designed to wake those people up that I spoke about in regards to my parents. That's it. That's what I'm here for. These people have done the right thing for 40 years. It's not like they want to do the right thing or they thought about doing the right thing. No, they have actually done the right thing for 40 years and they've still been screwed over. That is who I find myself wanting to wake up, and that's who I've always worked with and helped. So that might be you, it might be someone you know, in which case please send this video to them, right? The only market in the world that has exceeded its 2008 value, and value is measured by how many dollars, what percentage of the dollars on the overall system do you control. The only market that exceeded that was the NASDAQ, which is why there was a big boom in growth stocks, in tech stocks, because people could try and see this. They were trying to gain their value and by the way, the NASDAQ still didn't beat the 2000 high, just 2008. So poor people have never had a penny to their name, right? And we can argue about, if they had money that was actually worth something, they would do something with it. Sure, absolutely. I'm not discounting that at all. And that's going to be actually my point. Poor people need Bitcoin adoption. What they need to do is receive their paychecks in Bitcoin. What they need to do is the ability to transact with Bitcoin. That's what poorer people need, that. And they need adoption way more than rich people. It would be great if you could have the choice of someone who's working paycheck to paycheck have the opportunity to get their paycheck in Bitcoin while working for a big company, right? That would be great. That would be awesome. And that is how the poor people get helped. Bitcoin is a very unique asset. It solves all of the problems of the very rich and the very poor at the exact same time. I think Michael Saylor said that. It is a very, very unique asset. if I am, millionaire status or billionaire status or working a good job or on the streets and doing odd jobs here and there, we can all take advantage of Bitcoin. It's the first time ever. You can't do that with property. By the time someone with a job saves up enough to put a deposit down on a property, that property has been inflated so much that they can't even afford the deposit. And to keep that person happy, because that's the majority of the voting bloc in a democratic society, the governments will control how high the value of properties can go. Unless you are smart enough to buy oceanfront, right? Oceanfront, they don't care about because it's rich people. They don't care about that. It's the minority of the voting bloc. People living in single family homes are more of the voting bloc than people living in oceanfront properties. So oceanfront properties have always outperformed single family homes because it's rich people money, right? It's rich people games. Like, I want to live oceanfront. Someone who can't even get, past 3 months without a paycheck has no hope of doing that. So rich people need Bitcoin. They need an asset at this point. If they're going to save the legacy that they've worked, if you are, who have been working on a legacy for 40 years, do you think you want to save that? I would. And so rich people need Bitcoin more than poor people. And it is a controversial take, but I think it's the correct one. Bitcoin is also a monetary network, which means the more dollars pile into it, the more valuable the network gets. And therefore, Bitcoin also needs the rich people. I know that's going to trigger some people too, but we are trying it today. But again, remember what I said. If I piss you off, you clearly care about Bitcoin. And so the one thing you can do to help is have this conversation in the comments, and also subscribe to the channel. That I would genuinely appreciate that. Now, we haven't finished, because this idea of rich people needing Bitcoin more than poor people, I hope all of what I said makes sense. The question that I have for you is, if rich people need Bitcoin more than poor people, then surely the demand for Bitcoin over the next decade is going to go up, because not many millionaires, like outside of, people that got lucky buying Bitcoin, or not lucky, but people had foresight and they bought Bitcoin and they became millionaires. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are traditional asset millionaires. Surely they're about to come into this. Now, if I did some math, and I'll put link this tweet up so you can read the math, or the maths, being British, in the comments. But there are 55 million millionaires in the world. If you imagine that 1%, there's 55 million people. I'm talking about millionaires, not billionaires. 55 million people, like my parents, your parents, maybe yourself, who have had this problem where they've worked on this legacy for 40 years, and it has come back to slap them in the face. And now they're figuring out what the hell to do as inflation takes over. Do you think 1% of them, if they've managed to go through the blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point, do you think 1% of them might actually go through the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to understand and hold Bitcoin? I think so. They have it inside of them. It's the spirit, right? Have you ever realized, I definitely have more trouble explaining Bitcoin to poor people than I have trouble explaining Bitcoin to rich people. The hardest part that you get is, after they understand it, is the willingness to execute. Rich people is much harder. Poor people is much easier. So, do you think that 1% of them, and by the way, the reason why it's harder is because their property is going up in value, or their equities are going up in value. So they see less need to take action until you truly break it down for them, which is what that other video that I did is about. Now, 1% of 55 million millionaires in the world, that's 550,000 people. Let's say that they wake up and go, shit, I need to buy 2 Bitcoin. I need to buy 2 Bitcoin, right? That's 1.1 million Bitcoin straight off the markets. And currently, by the way, without any price changes and without any volatility and without any Bitcoin rushing off the exchange because the price is going up, that's 61% of all the current Bitcoin supply available on exchanges worldwide as of the 17th of August 2023. 61%. If just 1% of the millionaires in the world wake up and go, shit, I need 2 Bitcoin. 61% of all the current Bitcoin supply is gone. And that's assuming that no prices change. The Bitcoin that's currently on the exchange stays on the exchange, et cetera, et cetera. And that doesn't include the normal person demand, the family office demand, the ETF demand, the corporate demand, the billionaire demand, or any other demand that might show up like Strike, bringing Forex markets onto Bitcoin. The question that I have for you this morning to think about is that's just 1% of millionaires who have sacrificed their lives to build their legacy, realizing that this is the way to protect my legacy and I've been screwed over by the system. What if 5% of millionaires get orange pilled over the next decade? No one but no one is truly understanding the finality of the scarcity of this asset. It's truly terrifying when you think about it. And again, these millionaires will have to follow the same rule. These new millionaires that are coming in getting orange pill will have to follow the same rules of Bitcoin. And they're experts at it. Why do you think I got this 3-step plan from? It's because I've been trained in it. I've been trained in it. My mastermind in my life, throughout my life, has always emphasized buying things and holding on to them. That's why there's only 3 rules to Bitcoin, which is step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, you shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy. Have a beautiful morning, and please subscribe to the channel and share this video.